My name is Matthew, and I read The Pit and the Pendulum. It's a short story by Edgar Allan Poe, and it is a nightmarish fever dream, a first person confessional of a man trapped in a torture chamber dungeon. And we start to get observations and descriptions of this man who's now newly found himself in a dire situation, and he is confused. He's still trying to get his bearings, getting an understanding of where exactly he is. It's dark, there's no light coming in. He has to run his hands across the walls and use his other senses, what he can hear and smell. At one point he trips in this dark dungeon, but his face doesn't hit the floor. Instead, he runs his hands around while he's on the ground, and he realizes, unbeknownst to him in this dark room, that there is a huge pit of the depths he does not know. A little pebble or rock falls off the edge, and you can hear it plunge into water. He scurries back to the wall, and he realizes that he is in a dark room that has at least one pit for him to fall in. And he falls asleep, and he wakes up, and now he has food and water. It's a little bit lighter. Light is now entering this place. He is slightly bound up now, not entirely, just enough to restrict him. He still has some mobility and motion, but not entirely. And in this torture chamber, he's starting to realize that death awaits him, and he has some choice. He could fall into the pit and die immediately, or he could sit there and potentially starve to death. With light in this room now, he's able to look around, and we get a better description, and this person gets a better idea of the room that he's actually in. It's much larger than he had first expected. On the ceiling, there's a giant steel mechanism. It's a pendulum, and as time goes by, the pendulum moves, and it's disorienting. He can't really tell if time is passing by smoothly, or is his version of time getting distorted? Is the pendulum actually accurate? There are also rats that start coming out of the pit. He has food and water, and the rats want his food and water. This pendulum finally, instead of in a lateral movement going around the room, it now, with a blade at its edge, starts coming down vertically towards our prisoner. And with a little bit of ingenuity, he manages to escape this pendulum and ward off the rats. So we have these trials happening. He didn't fall into the pit. He did not succumb to the blade of the pendulum. He was able to avoid being eaten alive by rats. And finally, this strange dungeon that he's in, the walls themselves start closing in, closer and closer, edging their way, inching their way to the pit, pushing him closer and closer to falling to his death. And this is as claustrophobic, as nightmarish as a story can be. It is terrifying and gripping and perfectly told, the way that we learn about this horror chamber through the senses of this man, and how he's able to come to grips with his environment, and how he's able to sort of outsmart and through a little bit of ingenuity pass a few of these trials. All the while, we know that there must be somebody watching, but we don't know who, we don't know how long this person's been in there, and we have to keep wondering, how is he ever going to get out? If he's going to be able to get out, or are we just watching a snuff video, a short snuff story of a man that only has one ending, which is to die in an empty room designed to kill him? So there's all of this mystery, and it's so well done. This is Edgar Allan Poe just unleashing every nightmare vision. He has this theme that recurs throughout so many of his short stories of burial and being buried alive, and all of the fears that come along with those natural fears that we have deep down inside, fear of death. And in this construction, we have a man that's essentially buried alive. This torture chamber is his coffin, except he's able to choose his own adventure, for lack of a better phrase. And yeah, it's just gripping. It's really well done. It has that atmosphere and fear. It has fear and atmosphere, and kind of an original, surprising ending. If you haven't read it before, it does end in a very interesting way. So yeah, The Pit and the Pendulum by Edgar Allan Poe. Let me know if you've read it. Let me know what you think of it. I think it's a fantastic gothic short story. So thank you. Leave a comment if you would like.